What if I told you that the next biggest clue to your ancestor's life is not actually in a record or document, but in an old photograph? We often think of genealogy research as sifting through endless wills, deeds, death certificates, marriage certificates, birth certificates. But your family photos are just as valuable, holding clues just like those traditional genealogy records. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to evaluate your old family photographs just like you would any other genealogy record or document. Hey there, I'm Lisa Lisson. I am a genealogy expert with 15 years of experience helping others find their ancestors. On this YouTube channel, I share my best strategies, tools, and tips for uncovering your family history, growing a healthy family tree, and not being overwhelmed in the process. So if that sounds like your cup of tea, you are in the right place. Today's video is sponsored by Related Faces, and we want to thank them for their sponsorship today. Now, Related Faces is a relatively new on the genealogy scene tool designed to help you identify individuals in your old family photographs. Now, you know I am still on a mission to identify all of my unknown photographs. And I am excited by the Related Faces use of artificial intelligence, or AI, to help put names to those faces in the photographs. It's easy to use. You simply upload your photographs into the Related Faces platform and add any details that you know. And well, if you don't know many details about that particular photograph, that's okay too. Then you sit back, let the program do its magic, and wait for the results as each face in your photograph is compared to every other face in the Related Faces database, including the photographs at the Library of Congress. This is one you're going to want to check out for yourself. They have a 14-day free trial. I'll have the link and the information in the description below. So why are photographs and old family photographs essential to your genealogy research? Well, when we think of genealogy research, we oftentimes think of those records such as the census records, the birth records, marriage, death records, and other legal documents. But here's the thing. The family photos that you have in your collection are important to your research too, but maybe not in the way that you've previously thought of. First of all, those old family photos, they're not just keepsakes. They are rich historical documents, and we as genealogy researchers need to treat them as such. When we go to evaluate a family photograph with the eyes of a researcher, with evaluating it for information that we can pull from our genealogy perspective, what are we asking ourselves when we look at that photograph? Well, we're asking ourselves, who is in that photograph? So first of all, who is in that photograph? Are they family members? Is it one? Is it more? Or are they perhaps acquaintances? So we need to make sure that we identify everybody in the family photograph. And I do recognize that's hard. I have other videos on that topic for you. If you'd like to explore that more, I will have a link to those videos down in the description below. We want to look at the scene. What is happening in that photograph? Are we looking at a portrait? Are we looking at a wedding type of portrait? Are we looking at a more casual grouping, a casual event that is happening that we can pull different types of clues? So we want to understand the context that that photograph was taken in. We want to understand the occasion behind that photograph. Why was it taken? Why do we think it was taken? Of course, we want to know and estimate the date of those photographs were taken. We want to be able to determine when in time that picture was taken. We can do that based on perhaps clothing style. We can do that based on type of photograph. We also have tools and technology that can help us determine and estimate a time a particular photograph may have been taken. We want to know, where was that photograph taken? Was it in a city? Can you get clues from buildings and skyscrapers? Can you look and recognize a city skyline, perhaps placing an ancestor in an area that maybe you hadn't thought to look before? So these are all the types of questions that we are going to be asking ourselves as we look and evaluate a family photograph as a actual document. So think about that, guys. Just like a text document, that photograph, that image is also a document to be evaluated, to pull those clues from. In addition to understanding the types of questions that we want to ask ourselves about family photos to evaluate that and pull pertinent information for research purposes out of that photograph, we need to make sure that we're using the right tool. The right tool might be something like a Related Faces. So yes, we might need to go ahead and do a little bit of photo editing and cleaning it up using some of those tools, such as like a Vivid Pics, which is a photo editing software. You can use the free version of Canva, which is online. You can even use Google Photos, or even your phone. If you take a picture of, say, a tombstone on your phone and you want to adjust the lighting, you can do all of that in some of these free programs for photo editing. But we're also going to need perhaps a tool such as Related Faces to help us, one, identify the people in the photographs, as if we have, because we want to see what those family relationships are. And we want to be able to make sure that we have the best shot at that, because if we understand who is in those photographs, perhaps some of the occasions about the photographs, then we have a better opportunity of getting more of the clues that we might need to further our research. I'm going to turn the camera around and take you over to Related Faces so you can see how I do this within their platform. All right, so we are over here on the Related Faces website, and I wanted to kind of walk you through using the right tools, as well as walking you through some of the photographs that I have, how I evaluate them, how I treat them like that document that we've been talking about for evaluation purposes, because ultimately we want to be able to tell our stories, we want to understand their stories and who they are, and we want to also grow our tree. And we can do all of that when we incorporate photographs into our genealogy research. So I have already uploaded photographs over here at Related Faces. It's a very simple process. I've done it in previous videos. I will link those in the description below. This is where you would upload a photograph here. This is a tab with all of my photographs. Some of them are in just a general box. Others you can label them out and put them in little photo boxes up here to keep them organized. I actually spend probably most of my time in the My People tab. Now, one of the things that you might notice right away is that there's that orange little square right there. And what that indicates is that a new photograph that I have uploaded recently, and it's saying, hey, we think we've found some matches. So that is definitely one of the things I need to do, is to see, you know, I have a known photograph of William Henry Haley, but they think they might have found more. So that's an important piece of the puzzle, because I want to see, does he match with any other users on this database, or even potentially at the Library of Congress in their photograph collection. I want to see if he's matching, because if he is with somebody else, then I have the opportunity to collaborate and maybe learn even more about this family. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that, and it's going to take me over to his profile. So you can see I have him in other photographs here, and it's doing its magic here, loading up. And then from here, what we're seeing is I'm on his profile page, but we're going to go into the pairings to see what who they think he might have matched with. So these are some photographs that they think that he may have potentially matched with some resemblance there. You know, it's not the best picture of him because of the hat, and I think that tends to skew things. The better picture you have, the clearer picture you have, the better. But here he is with the hat, here he is without the hat, so he has very distinctive features there, and you can see who he is matching with. If I want to click onto that and say, okay, who is this person? Could this potentially be a match? It pulls up the information. Here's my guy on the left. Here's this guy right here that they think he might potentially match with. But I'm looking at this, and this photograph was taken in 1861. Well, my William was born in the photograph was taken in 1863. My William was born in 1861. So obviously this is not a match for him, but that's okay. You know, at least it's giving me options. So I can actually scroll down here, and then I can actually decline that match. So I've told it that that's not a match. All right. So if I go back to my pairings, and I can work my way through them, it says I have, 14. So I can look, does this photograph match others in my thing, and if there are other users that I could potentially match. So these are actually other users in the Related Faces database that he would potentially match. And to be honest, while they are suggesting ones, it's not really great. I'm not, I'm not necessarily seeing any that I actually think truly do match him, but I do have, there are 5 pages. So I would actually go through each of these to check and make sure and do my due diligence. So okay, so here we are back with these 2 photographs of William, and I wanted to give you an idea. So I've already gone through, I've looked at my matches to see if I find any matches. If I did, then I'm going to potentially reach out to those other researchers who may have posted a matching photograph. Then I am going to reach out to them and see what we can do to collaborate and learn more about this Haley family. So I did not match anything there, but that's okay. I'm not done yet. So I actually have these 2 photographs, and what I want to do is open this one right here first. And this is actually William here, the tall man here. This is his wife, Clara, and these are the first 5 children that they did have. They did have more children, but these are the first 5. And this photograph would have been taken sometime probably in the early 1900s. And we know that because this little girl right here holding the doll was born in 1896. And so, she looks to be 3 or 4. So we're looking kind of at that later, late 1890s, around 1900. So that's how I would date this particular photograph. And obviously, what am I going to look at? I'm going to ask myself 5 questions here, guys. I want to know who's in the photograph. Well, I do know who's in the photograph. I have identified these using other family members. This is William here, his wife Clara. This is their daughter. This is their daughter Carrie. This is their daughter Winnie, my great-grandmother. This is their son Percy. This is their youngest daughter at the time, who was Daisy, and this is their other daughter Ivy. Now, I do know all that. This is obviously a, get the kids dressed up for the photograph. I thought this was really cute. They've got the 2 older girls dressed alike. So they're in their, all the kids are in their finery. Each of the girls has a doll. And this is, I thought this was a really cool photograph here. It looks to be that they might be standing in front of some type of building because you can kind of see the slats here behind them. I don't know what building it is at this point. But we do know that I believe this was probably taken in Halifax County or Charlotte County, Virginia, and they are in their finery. Now this family would have been a huge occasion. So why was it taken? I'm not 100% sure why this particular day they took the photograph, but they did take it. They wanted a family portrait, I would assume. Because they've gotten really dressed up. This is a farming family. They made their living on the land. So they would not be dressed in their finery, holding their best dolls on just any given day. So this was obviously an occasion that they were doing. We just don't know if they were actually celebrating anything at this point. So we know who was in it. We know when it was taken based on the ages of the youngest child. We know a little bit about what's happening. It's a portrait of some point, but we don't know why. I would want to look at the building, so we're looking at that building to see information there. And then, of course, the why. We're not 100% sure on that either, but it's obviously an important occasion for them. Now, one of the things that really struck me when I looked at this particular photograph, that is the asymmetry of Claire's eyes right here. But we also see it in her daughter here. We see it in Winnie here as well. We see it in Ivy as well. And so this is actually a trait that I've seen throughout the family members of this particular family and for several generations. And it's very helpful to me when I end up with a photograph that I'm not sure who it is. The eyes can often tell me that it is part of this Haley family, or perhaps Clara's family. She was a Holt. Her maiden name was Holt, so it could be part of the Holt family. But it very much helps me to zero in very quickly on a family group. Now, coming forward in time, we have this photograph of Grandpa Haley. That's how he was known. You can see it's labeled down here, 1942, Grandpa Haley. This is William. This is shortly before William passed away. He did pass away in this year. Now, a couple things to notice here, guys. When you are evaluating a photograph, thinking as a document, who's in it? Well, we have William here. We have the 2 children here, so we would identify the 2 children. I might need a little help on that with reaching out to my cousins, so I'm still working on that. But the main feature here is William Haley. All right, when was it taken? Well, it says it was taken in 1942. Well, guess what, guys? This was not taken in 1942. This is wrong. So somebody has labeled this many years after the date. This was actually taken in 1946. Where was it taken? Well, look at the buildings, and this is where I really want to dig into things. So I'm looking at this. I can see the car back here. If I were somebody who knew my cars, I might be able to tell you the type of car that was, maybe even the year. There's not a whole lot there, but possibly. I know some folks are very tuned into that. But I'm really looking at this house back here. Okay, a lot of vine here. Its front porch is up off the ground. It's got kind of railings that are kind of sagging a little bit. Looks like there's more people up there on this. And that's the other thing, is I'm seeing more people. So this is, again, telling me this is an occasion. We've got 2 children here dressed up. This is an occasion that they are having. And as it turns out, this is Will Haley's house. So it tells me a little bit about where he lived and what the terrain looked like. It's quite flat, actually. We can see, kind of vine thingies growing on the house. It kind of can give us a little bit of idea of perhaps the socioeconomic status of this family. Now, Will was certainly not a poor man, but he was certainly not a wealthy man by any stretch of the imagination. He did own land, and he would have owned this land and this house. But as you can see, it's not anything fancy. So knowing that this is where he lived, as a researcher, I'm going to go find out, well, let me get a deed for this. Can I actually go find this land? So I'm going to actually take this forward and think, all right, it was at a family reunion, 1940s. They think he owned the land. That's one of the things I'm going to add to my research list going forward, is to go and find that deed for that particular house. All right. So we know that it's Will. So I have him as a young man and I have him as an old man. So that's pretty cool. I know what his house generally looked like. I can get a sense of impression from that. I get a sense of the terrain where he lived. So that gives me an idea. I know that he was a farmer. So it gives me kind of an idea of what the land looked like that he did. They tell me he owned land. People indicated that he probably owned land as well as the house. Turns out he did, because I added that go find a deed to my list and was able to find his deed. Also looking at this, knowing it was taken in 1946, he's obviously an older gentleman at this point. I can know that when I'm looking for any death records surrounding him, whether it's a will, whether it's probate, it's going to be 1946 or later. That's how I would build a research plan, by evaluating this photograph as a document. It's given me some clues. They're a little nebulous, definitely, but this is how I would build that research plan off of this particular photograph. So you can see, analyzing that family photograph, just as you would say a will, a probate record, a deed, isn't all that different. And it's also just as crucial that we do that and get that type of information from that old family photograph. Don't get me wrong. I love discovering a family photograph. I love identifying those individuals and realizing, kind of meeting my ancestor for the first time and recognizing who they are and what their face looks like. But if that's all I'm doing, if that's all we as researchers are doing, we are missing out on so much. We're missing out on those important and crucial clues to be able to use those photographs as valuable family history documents. Learn more about identifying the old family photos that you might have in this video on your screen now. 6 steps to identify who is in the family photos.